your son and your significant other at the.
Well, I'm just waiting for that little light to say that we are live. How you doing, Kenneth? Looking like a young robot over there. Hello, hello. Welcome, welcome. It's another week. Palms up. Hello, my dear guests. How you guys all doing this week? Thank you guys for joining us for another week of Palms Up on our Facebook Live. I am so excited to be joined by our dear Pastor Coles. Welcome, welcome, Pastor Coles, as well as Mr. Kenneth Clark. How you guys doing this week? Looks like we got Mr. Brian Big Dip joining in with us out the gate.
Yes.
It's about to be another live one. Thank you guys so much for joining in. Before I go any further, let me take care of some business because we got some wonderful sponsors out there and this weather is breaking and it's time to get your head did. Don't be like me out here working every day, all day, ain't got time to do nothing for yourself. Guys, the weather's warming up, the pandemic is still amongst us, guys, but we need to move safely in these streets. And while we do, we know you're out there getting your hair and your nails did and your eyelashes and all that good stuff. Why don't you guys start a new norm and support our sponsors, those that are supporting the cause in the community. Of course, I'm shouting out our beautiful Glamour Nails over there on North Capitol Street in Northwest. Call Miss Sheila and tell her Rhonda sent you, 202-750-6612. She says she got your lashes and anything else you need nails oriented. Tell it palms up that your girl sent you over. That's 202-750-6612, Glamour Nails. Also, Miss Danita get the hairs did. Yes, she does. Miss Danita's House of Hair. Give a girl a call, 202-607-4325. I appreciate our queens for supporting the cause. And you know what it is, Waterfront Insurance Network is holding us down always. And they've got 2 locations in the district, they tell me, 202-487-0497 if you want to know more about that. And of course, our Cash App is Palms Up 4MI. That's Palms Up, the number 4MI. Hey guys, it's another week and it looks like your girl is on a little delay, but we're not going to let that stop us. We're going to keep on moving and keeping it pushing because you know we not any strangers to any hiccups over here on this platform. Hey guys, they tell me that word on the street is that this past Sunday, which happened to be Palm Sunday, that's right. Guys, I'm so sorry we didn't do an honorable mention for the fact that Palm Sunday was coming up. It's March the 28th. It just passed us. And we know that Palm Sunday is the first day of the Holy Week, commemorating Jesus Christ's his triumphant return and entry into Jerusalem. So I want you guys to know that Easter is coming. April the 4th is Easter. Happy early Easter out there. And I hope those of you that went to church on Sunday got your palms. You know how we do. We at least get there on Palm Sunday, don't we? You know what I'm talking about. Got to change out the poems from last year. Palms up. Hey guys, it's your girl. It's another week. I want you guys to know that a little bit of living history I wanted to report on. There's a gentleman by the name of Mr. William T. Fauntleroy. Anybody know him? Well, I know you know him. He's one of the original Tuskegee Airmen, and he's actually a native of DC. When I saw that, I was like, well, I have got to make sure to put this in the air, as we got to make sure we're teaching our babies their living history right here in our hometown. How about that? And he celebrated his 95th birthday. He lives over there in Northeast DC, and they gave him a parade outside of his house. How cool is that? Shout out to the East Coast chapter of the Tuskegee Airmen, and who is this? The Northridge, Woodridge Citizens Association, and all of his family and friends. Guys, that's right. We got to give them their flowers while they're still living. Hey guys, let's give a palms up to our dear William Fauntleroy for being able to be a part of our living history mention this evening on Word on the Street. That is so awesome. In addition to that, looks like Kenneth is having some connection issues. I think that there's some connection issues overall. So guys, just bear with us as we continue to move this forward. I want you to know that the Tuskegee Airmen, they were Black servicemen that were trained at the Tuskegee Army Airfield in Alabama in the World War II era. And they were the first African-American flying unit in the U.S. Army military, or the U.S. military. So I just wanted to point that out and let you know we got some living history over there in Northeast. Palms up, Mr. William T. Fauntroy. That's all right. I love that they gave him a parade. All right, let's keep it moving. You know your girl out here in these streets paying attention. Word on the street is we got some talking to do, DC. And then that's why this conversation is good. So I cannot wait until we delve into our conversation this week. What it is, DC, we got 13-year-olds and 15-year-olds committing carjacking? Really? 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 Okay, they're telling me that we got youth out here in these streets. They're not just DC teens. We got them coming from across the line in Maryland as well, which is why we got to do some talking. And somebody died at the scene. Guys, are you kidding me? Really? That's where we are? We so divided as a city that our 13 and our 15-year-olds are picking up guns and going out and doing something as serious as carjacking, and you don't think we need to do some talking? We're gonna have to talk about that. I'm looking forward to it in our next setting. I don't know what's going on with our feed, guys. Give me a minute, plus let's see what's going on. It is freezing up, and I want to make certain that we can get through this broadcast. Okay, looks like it's gonna do its own thing. Well, guys, also word on the street tells me that the mayor says that DC residents have been denied their fundamental rights. Their fundamental rights because of statehood. I think that DC needs to practice what they preach. And it's a good thing that this is messing up tonight, because I tell you, I have every intention of being able to call them out. So let's see what it's going to do. Okay, it's freezing up on us, guys. So we're going to do the best we can to get through this. But we got some serious content to go over tonight. And I'm just going to do a sound check for a minute. Ann, can you hear me, Pastor Ann?
Yes, I can hear you.
Okay, I think we just have a problem with the video. So since the voice is going, I'm just going to get on past the vanity of it. Guys, they say that DC mayor is actually concerned that we're being denied our fundamental rights for the statehood understanding. And the truth of the matter is, I wish DC would practice what they preach. It's not like we don't need the statehood, but the reality of the agencies that are currently failing our low income and our vulnerable citizens, not to mention our Black citizens, it's just not okay. So trying to get everybody to understand the importance of this statehood is one thing, but to be talking about fundamental rights when we got tenants in Ward 8 present day living with mice, rats, roaches, and all these other conditions and no heat. Come on, DC, which is it? Are we concerned about the fundamental rights of all DC citizens or not? Or is this just another show for statehood or what have you? You know, you painted that Black Lives Matter on the street, Miss Mayor, and I don't understand why all the citizens don't matter in DC. Word on the street is we got some talking to do, DC. So I'm so glad to get through that. And I thank you guys for hanging in there with us each week. Looks like this, we're going to have some issues with this feed today, but I'm going to keep on doing my part. Hey guys, I want you to know that the trauma that we speak of in mental health, well, wait a minute, before I even transition to that, let me back all the way up. Because word on the street tells me that Pastor Coles got her first vaccination today, and I would be remiss if I didn't put her on the spot. I understand that you got, was it the Pfizer vaccination? And what we're going to do is we're going to follow your journey, if you would allow us to. Talk to us about, you know, how you were feeling before, during, and after, for anyone out there in the Palms Up audience that might, you know, be going through it and trying to figure out still whether or not this is something for them. Pastor Ann, if you'll come forward.
Okay. Whew. It's been an emotional roller coaster for me, and it's still to a certain degree a emotional roller coaster. As I said, I think a couple of weeks ago, this can remind me because I got caught in a 9/11 situation. But but after talking with my doctor, because she was telling me to hold off for a while, I've been with her about 25 years. Because of the community work I do, I'm out there. She's like, and with your underlying conditions, they're not gonna give me my license about June or July, and I need you to be protected. So I went on the Department of Health and signed in, and they gave me an appointment right away because I do have underlying condition, asthma, which is respiratory, which COVID. That's the first thing it attacks is your lungs. So as I was getting closer to my date, I started having little anxiety attacks because you hear so many different stories about this vaccine, and I have a few family that are first line workers. Um, and I know for a fact one of my family members did have a very bad adverse reaction to the Pfizer. So yesterday I actually went and I took my first dosage, and I actually went into an anxiety attack as I drove up. It was like seeing something on TV with all these tents, and the military was all over the place and everything. Lou, I feel the stress in my chest now speaking about it. Um, I went through the line, sent me way to Waldorf, which is still part of Prince George's County. There wasn't a long line, a long wait, and I did okay at it's 3 check-in points.
Mhm.
I kind of did okay, as I drove up, like, go ahead, you can do this, you can do this. Then when we got to the second checkpoint, they gave me this sheet of paper to start reading.
Mhm.
But when I pulled up under that tent, I lost it. I started crying, and I had Sister Hamilton on the phone with me the whole time because it's very scary. It's still a lot of unknown about this vaccination.
Vaccine. Yeah.
But
Yeah.
I did feel a little more comfortable because I do get the opportunity to kind of sit in some meeting in there. But she'll tell you I start losing it. But the people there, they were really nice. And
I
when a
was gonna
lady
ask
saw,
you, was there someone there to aid you? I know I
yes,
was on the phone with you, but I just want to
yes,
give the
because what
folks.
happened
Yeah.
after I took the vaccination,
Mm-hmm.
because I'm allergic to penicillin, they gave me a pink thing, and they wanted me to go to a special area. I didn't know.
Mm-hmm.
I ended up almost going out, and they caught me. So they actually had me to back up, and they sent me a EMT with me. I
Mm-hmm.
had my own private nurse,
Okay.
and they sat with me the whole time because they were very concerned because my blood pressure kept shooting up, and I
Mm-hmm.
think part of it was anxiety. I had a good night though.
Okay.
I
Well,
didn't.
I'm
The
gonna
only
stop you
sign.
right. I want to stop you right there because I want to touch on it again. And when we get into the discussion portion of the
Okay.
evening, I thank you for bringing that in because it is so important. And I see that Mr. Jehudi Tassetti has
Yes,
joined us.
the massage man.
Welcome, 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 Mr. Jehudi. It is so nice to see you. How are you, sir? I want to talk to you guys about the understanding of trauma. Why? Because we're having a discussion this week. We're continuing part 2 of last week's discussion. Last week, we talked about love, accountability, and oppressed behaviors or oppression. And we talked about it in correlation to the gun violence and to the despair that many of the citizens are living in around the city, the fact that we're disconnected, and the reality that there are some conversations that we've got to have in our own community. I would ask everybody to mute until we actually open up the conversation so that we can have a clean communication.
And only takes a few seconds and it won't affect the rest. Finally, a totally different addition to the red tape.
And so basically, guys, talking about love, accountability, and oppressed behaviors, I want to talk about the trauma in mental health because I don't think that a lot of times we understand what we're talking about when we say trauma. Those of us that have been through
Well, it seemed to lost Sister Hamilton right now, Uncut Live Productions. What have you been up to for the past week? I know there's been some gun violence um, out in the area. Matter of fact, someone we know lost their son. Tell us a little bit what's going on right now. You unmute yourself. Can you hear? Can everyone hear me?
I can hear you.
Hey, how are you? Our massage therapist is on today. How are you?
Hey,
Okay,
how you
there you
doing there?
go.
Had a little
There,
trouble getting in, but I'm here.
Brother Clark, what's going on the streets? Uncut.
so, so what's happening is there has been a conversation within the community about uh, uh, trying to understand what what is actually contributing to the uptake of the gun violence. Prior to, I want to say, the past 2 weeks, we have had a shooting where someone has died for 2 weeks straight in a row. And so constituents and a couple of leaders are having conversation about what they can do, uh, and just really just coming together as a community to see what can be done.
Oh.
10-4, can y'all still hear me?
I can hear you.
Okay, yeah. And so there's been lots of conversations from a couple of faith leaders about just pretty much looking to see what are some of the issues at hand, and seeing what is the cause, what is the effect, with this gun violence. Why is this? Why has it been so um, so more prominent within these past 2 weeks? So it's a lot. A lot of people are grieving. We've had one brother who was 25 years of age. We had someone yesterday who was 29 years of age, was pretty much caught in the crossfire. Gentleman was shot over eight times. So it's a lot to deal with. It's a lot to deal with. So we're trying to pull our heads together and see how we can try to see how we can get to the root of the issues as it relates to this gun violence, and trying to figure out how we can eradicate it.
Okay. Brother Clark, you said he was caught in the crossfire.
Yeah, so it's been brought to my understanding a gentleman was getting off of work, was pulling into a complex, and as in the midst of him pulling into the complex, the shots were not aimed at the individual that got hit. The shots was being aimed at someone else, and so he got caught. The gentleman got caught as pulling up into the complex. In the midst of it, he was getting off of work, just got off the phone with his mother, and more than 8 rounds was shot, was being done.
This is getting crazy. Was it about 6 months ago? Remember the young New Year's? Wasn't even 6 months. Remember the family was coming from a New Year's Eve gathering in Southeast and drove through and got caught up in the crossfire, and the bullet went through the van's back
Yeah.
and hit the young lady. That family had called me. This is I don't know what's on people's mind, and I'm not just gonna say young folks because we got seasoned folks. I'm gonna call them
Yes.
that have the same mentality. Just trying to figure it out. Let me see if I get your name right. Jay Hootie. Am I saying that
Jehudi.
right?
Jehudi.
Yeah. Jay
Try it
Hootie.
again. Try it again.
Jay Hootie.
No, Jehudi.
Jay Hootie.
Yeah, and I said Jehudi.
Jay Hootie. What's it?
Almost. You'll get it.
Almost. Look, I'm gonna get there. I'm gonna get there.
That's a name of purpose. Jehudi is a name of purpose. It means warrior with great jump shot.
Okay. Okay.
No.
You know what? See, go sit time out. 1 minute time out. Stand in order.
It means
What-
messenger of God.
What is your thought on all this gun violence? We've always had violence in our community. Let's set the
I
record straight.
can't think of a solution, but I know what needs to be done. We need to have the guns taken off the streets. Now, that's easier said than done, obviously. Decade after decade, it seems to get worse and worse. And I wish I had a solution. I guess that's why we're here networking, trying to find some solutions. And we have to be more involved in the communities and provide alternative types of behavior to the point where the people in the community has to see the benefit of ulterior
Can you guys hear
activities.
me?
Yes.
Yeah.
How you doing,
Can you hear
Rhonda?
me?
Yeah,
Yes.
we were just sitting talking about this gun violence and just how, it's just it's crazy, in less than 6 months now we know of 2 families that have lost loved ones caught in a crossfire. Caught in a crossfire. We had the young lady in January and now this gentleman, what was it, this week?
I have no control. And of course, we're live. Can you guys hear me?
Yeah.
Yes.
We
Yes.
hear
You
you.
can hear?
We can
Yeah.
Okay,
hear you.
we're gonna keep going with it. I guess higher forces are in control, but we're gonna keep on going with it because we got this conversation to give, and I know that there's quite a bit. So I'm gonna ask you guys to unmute and come into the conversation. We don't want to drip out folks at Facebook on Facebook. We want to get this conversation, this content out. Guys, thank you for hanging in there with us. Technical difficulties have plagued this platform, and I'm sure many others during this pandemic. Can't control what's going on with the Zoom and in the Facebook Live, but let's go. Guys, gun violent crimes. I was talking about Kenneth's guest. Kenneth, will you help us understand what happened to our dear Queen's son and the events surrounding, if you can? I'm so sorry to hear that.
So it's been brought
I
to
can't hear you. Are you muted?
No, we can hear him.
We can hear him.
Yeah, we were just talking about that.
Go ahead and speak. I guess Facebook has a different understanding for what's going to go on this week. But come on
Yeah.
and talk to us about our dear Queen that we lost her son. Will you talk to the folks and help them understand what's going on?
So I'm recapping for those. So it's been brought to my understanding that the individual was not personally targeted, but the individual was caught up in the midst of it being a crossfire is what has been brought to my attention. Can you guys hear me?
Yes, we can hear you. I can
Okay.
hear you even now.
Okay. It's been brought to my attention that the individual with the firing of 8 shots, 8 rounds, it's still a lot for our beloved sister. She's been asking everybody to kind of give her enough time to kind of sort this out because, as someone who she's fights against this so much, and now for this to come right within her front door, it's a lot to really sort out. and it to be so very close home. This is something that we really need to figure out why this has happened. It's been brought to my understanding within that area within itself in Suitland, Maryland. We've been having, from my understanding, there has been 2 weeks straight
Mm-hmm.
where someone has been killed or affected by gun violence. And in the midst of this pandemic, I think it's very key that we try to figure out what's going on. As we had an earlier conversation, we've all the gentleman said that we've always had violence within the communities, but the question is why is it so prominent now, and why what is causing this to become as a daily thing now?
Okay, I want to stop you. I want to invite Mr. Jehudi to the conversation. I think that that's a wonderful segue to bring you, sir, into the conversation. And I see that your hand is up, and I thank you for being so politically conditioned to put your hand up. But we've been having some technical difficulties, but we want to work you into this conversation. Mr. Kenneth Clark, please, first and foremost, would you please extend our sincerest condolences to the dear sister, condolences, and if there's anything we can do from the Palms Up platform, the Healthy DCME organization, please let us know. There are no words, guys. There are no words. We're burying our babies. We're losing our babies. We started the first part of this discussion, Mr. Jehudi, last week, and we talked about love, accountability, and oppressed behaviors, and the reality of how our living conditions, the fact that this death, the COVID-19 circumstances, just a host of things that are plaguing families in the Black community that are contributing to the realities that they're living with. And since they always hear us, Mr. Jehudi, talk about mental health matters, and you've been on this journey with us for so long, I know you know what we're doing. We're raising awareness so that folks can understand how the things going on around them are connected. And for some reason, folks don't understand that this gun violence is connected to these conversations surrounding mental health and the reality of the technical understanding of it all. Will you come to the conversation and shed some light, Mr. Jehudi, and help us understand your many wonderful years of being a scholar, sir? Kenneth mentioned why is this happening all of a sudden, sir?
We have to change the culture of the community. That's number one. The community needs a new identity or a different identity than what's been accepted. As I was saying just before you came back, Rhonda, I don't have a solution, but I think what we're doing, networking, trying to come up with different strategies to deal with these problems, seem like every year it gets more intense and more violent and more frequent. So I'm just at the brainstorming stage of trying to deal with this.
Mm-hmm.
And there are a lot of us don't realize that we have some mental health issues,
Mm-hmm.
and we become reactive as opposed to being proactive.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Amen.
And
Amen.
and I don't consider myself a sole scholar. This is why we need each other to come up with some solutions and strategies,
That's
and
right.
and maybe we need to do more footwork out in the communities and become more visible.
I love that. You're
I
right.
don't know if the orange hats or whatever needs to identify us. It doesn't. What'd you say?
No, I was just laughing at what you said. I remember those orange hats, and I remember them being really, really effective. You touched on something, changing the culture of the community. Pastor Ann, last week thank you, Mr. Jehudi. I'm going to keep this moving around so that we can make up for lost time if we can. Last week we touched on something, and we were really just trying to raise the consciousness of the community by bringing conversation from different perspectives. Something came up in that conversation, two things, Black on Black crime. We talked about Black being a reference of darkness. We talked about bad living. Is there such thing as, and if so, we talked about expounding on that, and we touched on the fact that that's a difference of opinion, because some folks may not look at it that way. But now I want to talk specifically about accountable living, as we talk about accountability, as we talk about 13 and 15-year-olds doing carjackings, as we talk about the reality of another dead body lost to another gun held by another dark soul. Okay, let's talk about it. Because the reality is that we cannot keep expecting for our children to pay attention to us if we're not able to come forward, as Mr. Jehudi says, as leaders, as guardians, as elders, with effective strategies to help these children save themselves. And it's simply not enough, as Mr. Jehudi says, possibly just to be talking about it. We've got to be acting on it. But I want to talk about something as we did last week. And Mr. Big Dip, if you want to work yourself in a conversation, please unmute. I'd love to hear your perspective. We talk about 13 and 15-year-olds that are doing black on black crime, or doing the carjackings. And then we talk about the gun violence. And then we talk about blackness, or the black being about darkness. Let's talk about that darkness, because when we go to the communities to bring resources and help, we've got to figure out the level of communication that we're bringing. I know that many of you, especially Overseer Ann, being female, the jump off is real. And what that means is, don't come in my community trying to tell me how to raise my children, or talking down on me, or judging me, or treating me as if I'm some kind of charity case. Now, see, the reality of us having 13 and 15-year-olds pulling carjackings tells me that there's work to be done in our communities, whether we want to realize it, admit it or not. Okay, because 13-year-olds and 15 should not be doing things such as that nature. Nor should we be burying our young brothers, as Kenneth said, over in the Peachy County area, in the Suitland specifically. Every day for the last 2 weeks, there's been some conversation about some level of gun violence. So we obviously know that this gun violence is an ongoing issue. We held a Zoom back in the last year in the, late summer, talking about #Save DC, when we had more gun violence, more young lives lost. And so we're having these conversations, but the reality is, are we having them with ourselves? Are we truthfully allowing folks to be accountable about the decisions that they're making? Is there any parental accountability? Mr. Kenneth, I'd like for you to chime in, because 13 and 15, you still belong to somebody. Somebody's still responsible for you. And we can move these words around as cute as we like, or as creative as we like, so that it doesn't stick. But something has to stick in order for us to change the realities for so many. Talking about accountability, parental accountability, is that a factor? Should it be?
Have you heard the conversation about the 15 and 13-year-old mainly going around since that happened?
Come on, talk to me about it, Mr. Dip. Welcome to the conversation.
You see how everybody's now debating, should they go to prison? You got a lot of people saying they shouldn't go to prison for committing that carjacking and that murder. And that's, again, as you know, my point. See, carjacking by itself holds 25 years alone right there. So when these kids decide to even carjack that person, the charge is 25 years. But again, why would a 13-year-old or a 15-year-old be willing to risk 25 years in jail to take a car that you ain't even old enough to drive?
Come on now.
But they know they're not going to go to jail. And instantly already they talking, having a conversation that they shouldn't go to jail because they're too young to know what they're doing. Yeah, well, as long as you got social media and everybody teaching them all of this nonsense, they don't. Of course, they are too young to really understand the ramifications of what they're doing. But again, it's getting promoted everywhere. And as long as it keeps on being promoted that the penalty is nothing, they laughing it off.
Yeah, that's a very valid point. Thanks for coming to the conversation.
But
Pastor Cole.
I see, truthfully speaking, and I'm going to be that elephant again, we have been under soft martial law for about 25 years. 25 years. And where the problem is, the government is interfering in the households. They teach our children their first 2 weeks in school. If the parents raise their voice at you, if they look at you the wrong way, if they put their hands on you, it's abuse. So parents are trying to go to jail. They're not trying to get investigated and stuff. So their hands are tied. See, I'm old school. I'm
I
baby
do
boom.
it.
And I tell my son to this day, that's why God gave you a nice round butt. I'm gonna spank that butt. I'm gonna make sure I don't put no marks on it. But you're not gonna rule my house. And parents nowadays don't have the freedom of ruling. Now, I could say in the state of Maryland, they do authorize corporal punishment. That's what they want to call spankings now. Corporal punishment. They will even offer you a class on how to spank your child without putting marks on. But an investigation comes up. Social service walks in your home. And it's already tension in the home. Okay, we're gonna be real. It's already tension in the home. Social service come in there, and instead of helping the parent and develop that family, they take the children out of the homes and put them in another jacked up situation in the foster system, or putting them in some center, and they get abused. They become numb. Another problem, we don't have programs out here. Back when I was growing up, a lot of programs were free and helped the parents. Nowadays, things are so high that the parents got to go out and work and try to make something. Even if you get government benefits, it don't get you to the point where you can really survive. So now, with the government in your home, income situation and stuff, here comes that mental, here comes that trauma.
Let's
Here
talk
comes
about that Pastor, for a
undiagnosed.
minute. Let's talk about that for a minute. I appreciate that. That's a wonderful, analogy. But I want to open the conversation up a little more on that. Let's go back because we're talking about accountable behaviors, and let's talk about it. You talk about the reality of school teaching the children that if the parents raise their voices too loud, then they have somewhere they can go. Let's talk about the parents raising their voices. Let's talk about the cycle of trauma and the cycle of unhealthy relationships and the cycle of accountability that we are failing as the parents, because I don't know why it always comes down to the physical conversation. Are we not, I'm just asking, are we not able to rear our children without it getting physical so that we don't have to continue to have that be the narrative? I'm just wondering, is there any clarity?
Well, again, we got to go back to, like I said last week, what do you consider healthy? What you might consider healthy might not be healthy to me.
Yeah, but let's talk about that for a minute. Again, as we talk about mental health and people not knowing they have mental health, if that's a reality, you do have some accountability for knowing what healthy means. And you do have some accountability for knowing whether or not in situations in rearing your children, whether or not enough is too much. So there's some people, as you know, coming from the church that are against rearing physically raising their children in the sense that they have to whoop them or what have you. And then there's some parents that are not affected with that, and there's some parents that are affected with that. What I'm asking us all, is it realistic to raise a 13 or 15-year-old in a household without raising your voice and not have them end up carjacking or shooting someone?
It all goes back to the
Can I get someone else? Hold on 1 minute. Let's get another point of view. I appreciate that, Pastor. Anyone else want to chime in? Is it possible?
No. I'll say no. I got 9 sons.
Talk to us. Give us a little perspective.
See, you got to have some fear there, especially with these boys. But if you don't, what I talk to a lot of guys about is it's not just the fear that you'll physically harm them. Respect goes a long way too.
Yeah.
That's
And
right.
today I see too many parents busy trying to be like the children. They're trying to be their children's friend, trying to prove that they cool. So if you're not doing the job as a man in the home, at least, especially just physically beating them, that's not going to take it but so far. Because eventually he might get up to the point where he feels he can do it to you, and if he feels he can do it at home, he can go out and do it in the street. So you're still going to have something to hold fear over their head, and standing in corners and all that just ain't going to do it, but for so long, especially for a single mother.
Okay. I appreciate that. And then welcome Pastor Willie Walker. Point of conversation, will you? We're around the narrative part 2 of love, accountability, and oppressed behaviors. And wouldn't you know it, we've got another week of violence, gun violence to be specific. We've got our 13 and 15-year-olds creating carjackings, and we're talking about parental accountability. Do you want to chime in before we move on to the next topic of conversation?
chime in concerning the behavior of
Parents, what is the, I'm sorry, thank you. Pastor mentioned that the reality of the government interfering in our rearing of our children and painting the narrative that if we, put our hands on them from a rearing standpoint or yell at them too loud or speak to them too loud, that, obviously there's a possibility they get taken out of the home and, then we get into this cycle of unnecessary governmental interference. And so I asked the question, is it possible to raise 13 and 15-year-old children or children in general in our communities without having to raise your voice or put your hands on them and falling into that narrative? Is that possible?
No, because it's going to be a habitual cycle. And it's only going to pass it down from generation after generation, because I remember that my father was, yelling at me and thought that, that could work. And it wound up being devastating to me, because even though he was there physically, it really hurt me real bad. We don't know the traumas and the effects it brings on us, because we can pass this down from one generation to the next and don't even realize that we have so much effect on our children. And now that you're passing it down to somebody else, and what may, like Pastor Ann was saying, what may work for you may not work for the next person, because you're trying to pass down a mentality and this same cycle, and we're just passing it down from one generation to the next.
I thank you for that. And that's that cycle we were talking about. And so we're talking about love, accountability, and oppressed behaviors and how they affect the understanding of the present foundation in our communities or lack thereof. Hey guys, word on the street is that fentanyl is making an appearance in our communities and on our block, so much so that we're losing people to it. The dippers, as they call them, are out there. And yeah, we're going there on this platform because we got to have these conversations. We've got to get to the bottom of understanding these guns going off, death all around us. We're divided when we need to be together. Our babies are committing carjackings. Guys, everybody around us in this town is on the come up, but when you look at some communities, some blocks, we're dealing with the same old robbery, gun violence, the lack of being able to come into a community and assist parents who are having challenges with raising the children. Let's be honest, we do have to find a solution, and it can't be taking the children out of the home, and it can't be allowing children to rise up against their elders. That's not an option. That's a representation of communities out of control. So I'm asking the question, how do we get a handle on these issues in the Black community so that we can use these conversations and understandings to help save our youth, because they're committing carjackings and killing one another? And so my question, guys, is fentanyl has made is making appearances around blocks and communities and where we're serving our families, and these dippers are popular. And is it possible that there's a connection to this increased death? Is it possible that it's a connection to the gun violence? And then we want statehood. Imagine that. Somebody talk to me, help me understand. Why is that the case?
Rhonda?
Yes, sir.
I'm wondering, is it a lack of community resources? Because let's just say that if we do get community resources in that area, in a community, would that change the behavior? I don't know. I know that jail time is not a deterrent. So like I said, I wish I knew.
Yeah, and I just love your humbleness. The reason we have these conversations, because we need to recognize that we're not so divided after all. We all have issues around the same understandings. It's just we are either private about it, we're ashamed about it. I don't know what it is, but we're going to get to the bottom of it.
But
because
you know what? He just brought up something.
Come on.
And it take my mind back.
Mm-hmm.
When he talk about jail time, I think another issue that has plagued our community, and this is fact, you could take a child that's been doing good in school, honor roll all his life, never been in trouble, unable to get a scholarship, can't afford to go to college, and he applies for all these programs and nothing. But now you take a kid that's been a problem all in school, in and out the system, they go to jail when they're adult. Prison is like a hotel. They seem to have more rights as an inmate in the system than somebody that's trying to live a good, wholesome life. So our society, our government is saying, if you want to get rewarded, get somewhere, then we need you to get caught up in our system.
Exactly.
And that's the reality.
Yeah.
I used to work with a program that when Lorton was open, our job was, before they were released, even when they were in there, they went to the best colleges and got up to their doctor's degree, debt free. When they came home, they had an A1 apartment. I'm talking about everything paid for.
So what
They had
happened? Let me stop.
40
You know, I'm
hours.
watching this clock because we doing some good talking. What happened, Pastor?
That you got rewarded for doing wrong. Still that way today. We want to talk about it.
Yes, we do.
Don't stop.
Male and female.
Yes.
It's big money, okay? Until you clean out our government, it ain't gonna stop. I'm gonna be 100.
I love it. That let's stay right there for a minute. Stay in this ether. Hold your thoughts. Stay in this ether, because Dick Gregory said that he can't put any diamonds in your pocket because you got all those apples in the way. So I'm saying that to all my viewers out there, that we're having these conversations because it's time to take some of those apples out of your pocket and put some diamonds in your pocket, because obviously we need to break these cycles. Come on with it. Mr. Big Dip, you wanted to come in on that? You had something you wanted to follow that up with?
No, I was just agreeing. She's right. If you go to jail and they get more rights and they have more stuff for them in the jail than they do in the
Did they
street.
do that?
Exactly.
Females
It's
the
more-
same way with the welfare
They have a lot of
system. The welfare
programs in the
system
jail.
makes a girl not need to work or do nothing. As long as I got a baby,
And
put my
not get
baby
mad
father in the
about it.
child support system, I don't have to do
Exactly.
nothing. It's
Okay.
a systematic
It's a
situation.
welfare state.
Okay.
That's what it is, a welfare state.
There it is, right.
I'm back to saying we live under soft martial law.
Gentrification is among us. Come on, Ken. Come on.
I gotta tune into this because I had a gentleman as of 20 years of age, and he asked me this question last week. He said, Mr. Clark, do I have to commit a crime in order to get dead in a cot? This is what the gentleman asked me. And I was walking with this gentleman, trying to get him into a shelter. An individual who has aged out of the foster care system. So Lord and behold, you know, that was right up my alley, because that's the exact same thing that they told me when I couldn't, when I was having a hard time navigating to try to get into a shelter. Again, we reward bad behavior. We tell people, the agency say, hey, if you ain't on papers, you got that ankle bracelet, you ain't on probation, guess what? We cannot accommodate you. And so the society, we accommodate bad behavior. We think
Yes,
it's
we
cool.
do.
We've got OGs out here telling our young men, you know, you talk about you a king, I do a mentorship. And I was talking to the young man, telling him, no, you're a king. You're made in the image and likeness to God. And the gentleman said, you ain't no king. If you can't do 20 years in the penitentiary, we brag and accommodate bad behavior. We do this. The government supports this. And so,
Guys, I thank you for that deposit.
False
Yeah,
badge of courage.
when you put it in that narrative, thank you. It does, like you said, it shows it. It shows what they're, but that's the government's plan. What, and that's why we do this show. We gotta have a plan. You know, we gotta have a plan, and the plan has to be effective enough so that we can upseat this ineffective leadership that allows these cycles to continue. And we're going to keep talking so that we can raise the consciousness and the awareness of our community. Guys, we got a plethora of issues on the community level in our communities. Until we as leaders can figure out how to reach the various members of our community to come together, then the government's plan going to continue to work as it's been working. And we
Well, can I
know
say
that this,
something on that?
yes, please, come on.
Well, you know who I go back to because again, as the minister said, we have a plan. Our men have to stand up to take our stuff back. But when we have a system that's working against the black man and a system that uses our females and our women against us also to put us down to jail, a system of feminizing all the males, we got too much coming against us to be able to stand strong enough to be able to go back and take our people back, take our children back.
I
So
love
we stop
that.
having so much of, welfare, child support, and so much stuff with all this social media, these negative songs and these negative artists, just everything and any movie, anything makes the black man word nothing and makes him devalued everywhere. So as long as everyone is helping devalue the black man, you don't have enough men to stand up to take our neighborhoods back, take our children and family back.
I love that. Palms
And
up,
big-
brother,
big
for that. Hey, just Jehudi, hold that thought. Don't forget it. Gentrification, guys, is in the midst of all of what we're speaking of. Let me read to you the definition of gentrification. Gentrification is the process whereby the character of a poor urban area is changed by wealthier people moving in, improving housing, attracting new businesses, typically displacing current inhabitants in the process. Guys, the process of making someone or something more refined or respectable. So basically moving us out as the inhabitants and making the places more refined and respectable for their understanding and living and livelihoods. And that's what's happening over east of the river, moving us out so that they can move in. And if we don't get a handle on all of what you hear us talking about, then as Mr. Brian mentioned, the fact that they are, basically it's a war on our black men, as he said, to put it bluntly. It's a war on our black men, and they're even using us black women against our black men, Pastor Coles.
Mhm.
So true.
That's so true. I mean,
And
we
I
have
want
become
to
a very
go ahead, Pastor.
we have become a very materialistic society. And the reality is, if you ain't really to get in bed and sell out, you ain't gonna get nowhere. So most of our leaders sell out. They being paid. Trust and
Yeah.
believe.
Yeah,
All the way up to our government officials. As a
Mhm.
federal employee, you ain't supposed to get over $25 from anybody. But they done learned a way to get thousands of dollars. Let's look at the NRA. Look how much power they got.
yeah.
Look at how much power they got.
It's definitely about a them and a us and a money game and a money grab. Let's talk about it, guys, in our last 5 minutes as we round out. Thanks you guys so much for hanging in there again. Every week we come to bring this knowledge because, guys, we want you to move those apples out your pocket and get some of these diamonds. We all need to be on the come up. Everyone else around us is. Guys, in the midst of gentrification in the black community, we've got a host of things that need to be addressed. Not just one thing. Don't let them tell you that. We've got a host of things that need to be understood. And why is it that our black men have to go to jail in order for them to have rights and resources? And why is it that we are participating in a war to demean and to reduce the population of our black men? Let's talk about it, guys. We talked about fentanyl making an appearance out there on the block, killing more lives. Guys, DC is #1 in HIV. So don't think that folks ain't walking around here going through it, talking about they ain't got no mental health. Guys, if you're going through anything that allows you to be stressed and anxious about something, you're harboring something, let's talk about it. HIV and stigma and mental health. So people are out here in this community trying to function with the reality of what their diagnoses are and trying not for you guys to understand it so you don't treat them some kind of way, so that you don't make them feel like they're unworthy of being loved. Guys, tonight is about love, accountability, and oppressed behaviors. We got to talk about it. We got to go through it to get through it. We got 13 and 15-year-olds creating carjackings. Guys, we got to talk about it. There's got to be some accountability. accountability across the board, and it can't always be about the government. We've got to have a plan on the community level. You've heard our big brother say that it's about the Black man coming back and taking his rightful place in his family setting. But is the Black man being held accountable? Is the Black woman being held accountable? Are we holding our babies accountable? Because we can all do something. Guys, it's just not about the fentanyl and the dippers taking them out. It's just not about the HIV understandings and the reality of our families that don't have anybody they can turn to or talk to when these things come up. So they do turn to the fentanyl, they do turn to the drugs and everything else because they just want to belong and understand that they're not going to be treated differently or ridiculed because of what their reality is. Guys, what about our LGBTQ community? We're not talking about it. We don't obviously understand everything, but we're all in this together. And as long as we're not addressing these issues, these very issues that are tearing our communities apart, then the government's going to win. We've got to get better about having support networks around us. Hey guys, before we get off, and I'd like to hear some final closeout from you guys, because the month of April, it just so happens that we are celebrating our Black men in the month of April, so much so that the entire month, every Tuesday, we're going to do an Erasing the Stereotype. We're going to hear the soldier's story. So we've invited several of our everyday men to our platform so that they can talk to you about their journey in hopes that it will empower many of our Black men out there. Guys, as I shared with you, this is the community's platform. We're going to talk about things on this platform that we relate to. We're going to do a little bit of education. We're going to do a little bit of learning. Guys, we are going to talk about our issues our way. Palms up.
Arms up.
I thank you for being with us another week as we talk about love, accountability, and we talk about oppressed behaviors. Hey guys, as I come to close out, I want to hear your closing remarks. Pastor, will you leave a word of knowledge sake, since we're moving the apples and putting in the diamonds, will you make a deposit for them? Love, accountability, oppressed behaviors.
Words of wisdom. Let's stop playing a blame game. Let's take some accountability at things that we can really truly do for one another. And let's work together. Let's build relationships. Relationship comes respect. From respect comes power. From power comes change.
Love that.
Those are words for the week.
Love that. And thank you, dear sister, for taking us on your journey with your COVID-19. Mr. Jehudi, love, accountability, oppressed behaviors in our Black community. Will you make a deposit of a diamond so we can take an apple out of somebody's pocket?
I'll make a deposit of 2 diamonds.
Okay.
And starting next month, I'm going to make a financial deposit.
God bless you.
And I just want to say, I want to veg you back on Big Dip. He mentioned something about the media. After it was announced that the young ladies would not be charged as adults, then there was a survey in the media, should they be charged as adults or not? And it was overwhelming that the response was they wanted the 2 young ladies to be charged as adults. I mean, why stir up something that was already decided? If those young ladies were of another race, that question wouldn't even been raised.
Well, hey.
And another thing, I would like to work with all the gentlemen to form, you say you have a mentoring group, Mr. Clark?
Yes.
Okay,
Mhm.
but I would like to do a rites of passage. Now, we can have a young men's rites of passage group or an adult, because it's definitely needed.
I
Yeah,
love
so-
that. I
And
love
so
that.
that's my deposit of 2 diamonds.
Thank you. Thank you. We take that humbly. We receive that. And I'm going to make sure that you and Mr. Clark connect, because that's a wonderful idea. Hey, Mr. Clark, love, accountability, oppressed behaviors as we talk about work in the Black community.
Can't hear him.
Ken, you're muted. There you go.
I have a word that I use: humanism, 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 unity, humanism, unity, humanism, unity. Because the deal is that we have issues that we deal with as human beings. It's not even about necessarily about a color, a stigma. It's humanism, humanism, and unity. That's my deposit right there.
Thank you, sir.
Humanism and unity.
I appreciate that, and please keep us up to speed with what is going on over in PG County. I know you mobilizing on some level, so let us know about it. And then please do extend our deepest condolences to our dear queen for her loss. Guys, we've got to figure something out. We're burying our babies. Ken, thank you so much for another wonderful week of content. Hey, Pastor-elect Willie Walker, thank you again for your support and your dedication. Help us make another deposit and help someone move the apples out of their pocket as I bring forward closure, love, accountability, oppressed behaviors in the Black community. There's work to be done. What are your final thoughts?
Words of humility and examination for oneself. We have to self-reflect due to what happens, whatever affects us can affect our community, our city, our nation. First and foremost, us and our family.
Mm-hmm. That's awesome. I love that. I love that. Thank you again for another wonderful week and all the wonderful work you're doing in the community. Hey guys, Dick Gregory says that he can't put any he said that in past tense, that he couldn't put any diamonds in your pocket because you had too many apples in the way. And so, dear brother, Mr. Big Dip, would you help us move some of these apples out of the pockets and deposit some diamonds with a closeout comment? Love, accountability, oppressed behaviors in the Black community. Will you share some knowledge?
Well, I'll leave y'all with a good suggestion of something that's been real successful for me, which I know a lot of people won't try because we actually have fear of a lot of these youngsters in the street, but roundtable meetings with the actual young bloods out in the streets. That's been so successful for me, actually talking to them instead of sitting around wondering why they do it and how they do it, where their mind state is, and sitting down talking to them, boy, it'll really shock you. So that's one of the things we should try to get together and put one of those together and have a meeting of the minds with the old and the old school and the youngest.
I love that. And what I'm going to do,
I'd be willing to put that together.
Oh, I love that, Oscar. You know me, I'm running, I'm jumping in the lane. So you already reading my mind, brother. You can expect that invitation to be on your doorstep. The entire month of April, we're celebrating our soldiers. And I'd love to be able to work with you, Mr. Brian. I keep saying Mr. Brian and Jehudi and Pastor-elect and Ken. I think that we have the basis of a wonderful core of generational exposures that we could be able to bring something powerful to the table. And so I would love to work with you guys behind the scenes so that you guys can take that thing and spin it into something. I am challenging you all to put it together so that we can put something before the people after you guys have an opportunity to get that going. So stay tuned out there, Facebook. As you heard it, our soldiers, and this is what I love about this, they keep talking about, they know what's going on in our community. They keep putting narratives before us. They show up with boxes of guns, as Pastor Ann told us last week. Mr. Jehudi just talked to us about the fact that the media decided that they wanted to do a survey after it was already addressed. Guys, pay attention to what's going on. Who's watching the kingdom, guys? All kinds of stuff are going out there. Our babies are committing carjackings, and the government is deciding what's happening in our households. We've got to have these conversations, whether we want to or not, whether it's uncomfortable or not. As you heard me mention, we got our mental health exposures just like everybody else does. We've got trauma just like everybody else does. We've got parental accountabilities that we need to talk about like everybody else does. Guys, we've got to recognize that these issues in our community are issues that we've got to come together to figure out. When we let government and other folks come in play, we have to recognize what that's truly about. Gentrification is amongst us. And remember, gentrification is the process of them moving us out. They're coming into the poor urban areas, moving us out so they can make it better for themselves. Guys, wake up. Our babies need us. Another week of gun violence. We've got to do this. Thank you guys so very much for another week. Palms up.
Yeah.
We ran a little over just because of the technical difficulties, but guys, I want you to know that we appreciate you. We appreciate the opportunity to be able to bring this content. And remember, Mr. Dick Gregory said, get those apples out your pocket because you need to put some diamonds in them. And we love you guys. We love that you came another week to follow our content. Guys, healthydcandme.org, spell the word and out. And you can get all this wonderful content, all the articles and language that we're speaking of is on the website. Remember, when DC agencies are failing you and your family, it's time to speak out. Do not let government dictate what yours and your family's livelihood should be. You have help. The new norm is to create a support group, support mechanism around you. We've got to stop our brothers going to jail, feeling like that's the only place they can go to get true resources and true understanding. And we've got to save our babies. We got to stop this. When 13-year-olds start carjacking and picking up guns, we are in trouble, and we don't need anybody to tell us otherwise. Palms up.
Palms up.
Hey guys, it's been another wonderful week. We thank you so much. As you heard me mention, on the entire month of April, we're celebrating our soldiers. Please come back and hear their stories and follow their journeys. If you know a young man that's lost out there, please get him in touch with us. We're going to talk to these beautiful soldiers that you saw before us today, and we're going to figure out how we can do our part to make a deposit of diamonds out there in the community. Hey guys, our Palms Up app is Palms Up 4, the number 4 MI. We'd love for you to be able to give us a Cash App deposit so that we can figure this out and get out of this Zoom technology situation. Guys, it's been another week. Thanks so very much. Enjoy the rest of your week. We'll see you next week. God bless.
Bye-bye. God bless.
Bye-bye.
Peace and blessings.